Hello everybody, James here. After a mini hiatus of a week, I would say. I had to take a week off. That's my fault, everybody, not Dutch's. We are back with Storytime with Dutch Mantell, episode 126, with the man himself, Dirty Dutch Mantell, looking sprightly, youthful. The mustache is buoyant.
That looks pretty good today, I got to say. And you know what? I didn't work with it a lot. I just got it ready and put a little wax on it and curled it up, and that is probably 3 minutes to get that.
That's TV ready, that mustache, let me tell you.
It is ready. So how are you, James?
Oh, exhausted because I've just been scrabbling to write the script for this. I scrabbled to write a script for doing a video on my channel and just family stuff and everything, so I've been running around since 7. So I'm ready. I'm willing, I'm able.
Hey, and we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to give you the dirty Dutch version of all this.
And I'm glad. You're going to be very quickly. We're going to do the plugs first once. I never mentioned this. Facebook, WSI Facebook. The link's in the description. For goodness sake, follow us there. We're also on Instagram. Don't know what the handle is, though, but seems to be getting a lot of traction at the moment, so I am told. There is the books, of course. Dutch has 2 books. The World According to Dutch and Tales from a Dirt Road. I had to think about it for a second. It's been a while since I've said them. Yes.
Let me say something about my books. Everybody knows I've had a recent hospitalization that really put me behind on getting some books out. And I still got books to go out. And I really appreciate the patience the people have shown, because I'm slow as hell. I really am, but it's embarrassing because I know when people they want books and they want them then. They don't want to wait weeks and weeks and weeks. But believe me, folks, I am working on it. And there's a few people said, "Oh, just give me my money back." There's no problem there either. So. But I'm going to get it to you as soon as I possibly can. And I appreciate and admire your patience, because having patience with me is a whole nother level. So, but it is coming. So just kind of relax and have a drink or two or do something to get rid of the waiting jitters, I guess.
Patience is a virtue, and your patience will be rewarded, let me tell you. YouTube channels, The Stevie Richards Show. I was doing my best there. The Stevie Richards Show on YouTube and all the podcast platforms. We had our biggest week ever with the John Cena news. We'll be talking about that on this show as well. And also my channel, James Romero, on YouTube as well. Link. I don't think it's linked anywhere, but just search my name. You'll find it, for goodness sake. And the most important email of all, apart from... I'm sorry, I didn't even tell you the other one. If you want Dutch's books signed, unsigned, you can just go to Amazon. But if you want them signed, you email dirtydutchmantell with 2 L's at gmail.com and make your request there. And if you want to send a question in for this very show, Storytime with Dutch Mantell, and especially Ask Dutch Anything, out every Saturday now, that email is questionsfordutch@gmail.com. All right, we're done with all that then. Let's talk about the news of the last couple of weeks. Once again, my apologies, I couldn't make it last week. And the biggest news was, of course...
Where were you? Where were you last week?
Oh, did I not tell you?
No, you told me, but I forgot.
Oh, I was at Spa weekend. We were given a Spa weekend when we got married over a year ago, and we finally cashed it in. That's it.
Really?
Yeah, that was it. So I've been...
So were you in the UK, or did you go somewhere?
No. Yeah, we were only an hour up the road, but that was it. But I only got back on Tuesday afternoon, so by that time I just didn't have time to do anything else. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so the big news of the week, or of the past 2 weeks, no more teeing up from me. John Cena turns bad guy. The first time he's been a bad guy since like 2004. You watched it. You saw it executed. We'll get to Travis Scott later. That's going to be an entirely different segment. But just from business point of view, creative point of view, 2 weeks ago you said John Cena versus Cody Rhodes does not excite me in the slightest. Now that John Cena's a bad guy, how do you feel about it?
Well, the way they did it, that's the beauty of wrestling. You can shape it and mold it however you want it to be. And The Rock did a good job. I don't know how much he put it together, but the team around him, that was a well-produced, well-executed turn of events. And of course, my source for that is watching the fans in the crowd, and they're like this. No, because they could see it coming. No, no. And what wasn't lost on me was the little things, because of Cena's face was hugging him, and all of a sudden it went from the smile to dead serious. And you don't see John Cena make that face often, but you knew. They just telegraphed it that you knew something was coming. And then The Rock, he did let's do the throat deal, and then he pushed him back and low kicked him and down, and then they literally beat the living crap out of Cody Rhodes. And when I see something like this happen, it doesn't, you usually expect to see a bunch of good guys run out of the dressing room and help him out. He must be the most hated guy in that dressing room because nobody came, maybe except a few referees, and that was it. But they really beat the crap on him, and we'll get to the Travis Scott part of it in a little bit. But a very well done angle, and that was the least thing. And why I didn't think of John Cena doing a big turn, because, well, I wouldn't have thought he would have wanted to, because they played the issue with Cena retiring for so long. Remember, when did he did a WrestleMania match? It's his last. Remember, they plugged it as his last WrestleMania, and Austin Theory beat him, I think. And now you said, okay, he's on his way out. It's nothing's really going to excite me about it, and that's why I didn't think it would happen. So, and the fans didn't think it would happen, but it did. Now that match has a lot of steam going into WrestleMania. And I don't know what's going to happen, but we still got 5 weeks, I think, before WrestleMania. But I think it's going to be this is what I like about WWE now. They put a lot of thought before they write it down on paper. There's a lot of thought, and there's a lot of opinions floating around that creative room. And when they have the official meetings, and even, when two of the writers are just talking, they're getting ideas, and there is a thing you can overload yourself on ideas, but if The Rock is not hearing all of them at the same time, and he's got his own ideas too. So I think this WrestleMania is better than the last two they've done. I think, in my opinion, for what it's worth. What is it worth? What is it worth?
It's worth
$10. Okay.
I'd pay you $10 for your opinion.
Okay.
In fact, how many fans out there might pay $10 for Dutch's opinion?
Yeah.
We can really monetize this.
Then I send it. I send it to them in code. Then you got to take this out, and to learn the code is another $10.
Just like
so
a
you learn the
Sudoku
code,
puzzle.
Then you say, "That's not a me." Okay, continue.
It's basically what you've described as how Bitcoin works, anyway, or some with them subcoins, I guess. Right. I want to ask you this for your theory on this. My theory is that this, like last year, I'm sure you remember, is Cody Rhodes is going to be the main event, and then Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is on the board, and then all of a sudden, in real life, he tries to interject himself into the main event, and it was going to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns, even though it made no sense because Cody Rhodes has won the Royal Rumble. Or was that 2 years ago? Whenever it was. The point is that this all seemed very, very rushed, and it doesn't seem to me like it was the grand sort of storyline going into WrestleMania at all. because Rock only turned up 2 weeks ago. And then, I mean, he did for the first Raw on Netflix, where he basically erased both of his important storylines, and it just seemed like he was in full-on corporate mode, talking about how great Netflix was. But then 2 weeks ago...
That's the beauty of Rock, because when he shows up, things happen. He moves it along. No need to stretch it out, because he's back. Let's do it. Let's get it done. And...
Well, that's the entire point. That's the entire point, though. I mean, did he just turn up one day, say, right, you've got me for 4 weeks or 2 months or whatever, let's do this? And do you think it's The Rock that's just upending the creative, or do you think there's more planning behind the scenes than we figure?
No, there's a lot of planning behind the scenes. But The Rock is still directing that. Even now, okay, where is he going after WrestleMania?
I think he's signed on for another film. So he won't be around.
Wait a minute. Well, is he going to run a wrestling company, or is he going to be in the movie companies? He's going to be in the movie business.
Well, do you know what? That's another theory, is that he took the job on the WWE board because he had so many, flops in a row wrestling, from Black Adam and Red Notice and stuff like that he decided to then go back to wrestling where he knew he would be a surefire hit, and then go back in. That was one of the theories behind why he came back to wrestling in the first place a couple of years ago. Well, last year.
But I'm sure that, let's say he goes and does this movie, but he's on the phone every day to the leader of the creative team. They're talking every day, and especially about the big PLEs they got coming up. He's got to be clued in on this and clued in on that, and so... But the WWE, their business right now is red hot. And there was a period about 2 years ago, I said, there's nothing hot except Roman Reigns. He was the only thing they had that had any bit of steam on them at all. And they were working, they were trying to work, but now if you think about their lineup, I mean, they got a lot of guys they could actually go to. You got a lot of them.
Yeah, there's Gunther and Jay and Roman Reigns and all different types of people, definitely. Let's talk about this then. Babyface versus babyface matches. You're a product of Memphis wrestling for the most part. It's what you're best known for, as well as Puerto Rico, I guess. But and WWE, I get, well, a load of different places. But I mean, you'll know more than anyone that babyface versus babyface, even in 2025, it's never the same, is it? Unless you've just got very good versus very bad. I think that, that timeless story.
Babyface versus babyface, no.
Going back to John Cena turning bad guy, what do you think his motivation is? Because originally, apparently, it was meant to be Cody Rhodes who was going to be The Rock's corporate champion. Now it's John Cena. And then I think I don't know if there was a fan theory that maybe CM Punk could have also been it as well, but maybe he wasn't considered. But what's John Cena's motivation with this then?
Well, in the fans' mind, I would guess that he's getting close to retirement. He wants to break the record. Who's he tied with right
they say Ric Flair. But
oh crap!
But Ric Flair's at 23.
Yeah. But I think now he is getting close to the end. Everybody knows that, but so he wants to be the champion one more time. He has the motivation. And him going straight in against Cody, most of the people would think, I don't know. I mean, even if you're fans of John, you say he's got a chance, but I don't know. They're really, really, in the back of your mind, you don't really understand the business. Hell, guys in the business don't really understand the business and where it can go. But people, the fans are thinking, I don't know. He's close to the end. They can't go really far with him. He's too old. But now, with The Rock, and what does he call himself? The
final boss.
The final boss. Now with The Rock in his corner, now you can see that number 17 popping up. you can see how he could set the record and have it for the 17th time. So now it puts a whole new slant on it, and I think that they can run that to the end of the year.
John Cena's got to turn good guy again before the end of the year, though, for like a proper send off. Do you think? Because I thought now this is perfect. You've got the story arc with the Rock until maybe SummerSlam, and then you can have. Because I think he's only wrestling till the end of the year. I'm not even sure it's going to be next WrestleMania. So then you've got the redemption arc at the end of it as well. It's perfect.
Yeah, with The Rock being the final boss, he could just change rules on the spot because he has final say. And if he does that a time or two, and now he needs somebody to come in and combat him, and I don't know who would come in and combat him. Maybe Roman. And that's another big sellout period that they can go through, and they can make a couple of pay-per-views and do some really, really huge shows in the stadiums. I mean, they usually just go to a stadium for a pay-per-view, but I think with Cody and Cena and Rock versus Roman, I think they could just bypass you could go pay-per-view on it and not even just have it out and it just pops up. And I think you do a tremendous payday on that. WWE is doing what we used to call in the wrestling business when a territory would get hot, they're printing money. And that's what they're doing now. I think they probably this is hotter than their Attitude Era, a lot hotter. And oh yeah, it is. They didn't go to the stadiums back in the Attitude Era.
That's true, but I don't.
And look at the ticket prices.
That's true as well, but I mean that's also a sign of the times. Everything's way more expensive with the ticket prices. My argument would be that in the Attitude Era.
Now you admit it.
Oh, I'm arguing with you.
You're arguing with me.
Oh yeah, I'm arguing with you. I'd say two things. One, WWF was doing house shows constantly at that time, and they were selling them all out pretty well, not all of them, but they were selling 10,000 tickets in most house shows. It was ridiculous at the time. But also, mainstream recognition was far and away bigger during the Attitude Era and during the Hulk Hogan era, like far more than it is now, regardless of what anyone wants to say. It's like you don't walk down the street and you don't see Austin 316 or NWO or Hulk Hogan t-shirts anymore. You might see occasionally, but back in the late 90s and 80s, like wrestling was way more mainstream than it is now, even though they are printing more money than ever. It's a weird middle ground. What do you quantify success purely by money generated?
So you're saying that wrestling back in the 80s, the Attitude Era, the first one.
Yeah, with both eras, yeah.
Is hotter than it is right now?
In certain aspects, yeah. It was way more watched. Because WWE Raw, even though it's on Netflix, now it's estimated to be around 1 million views domestically for Netflix, with some complicated calculations, if you compare it to Nielsen ratings.
I actually think, and we got to get to Travis Scott here shortly, because I think he's their first start in the new generation. They're trying to get a new generation going and they're starting with Travis Scott. I don't know if he'll work. Is he that over or no?
Who, Travis Scott?
Yeah.
Not in my opinion, no. But a lot of people are complaining at me saying, "Oh, everyone's heard of him." It's like, no, they haven't. But I figure he's far more.
I've heard of him.
Had you actually heard of him before?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, as I say, he's obviously a bigger star in the States than he is internationally. I guess people have heard of him over here, but he's nowhere near name recognition as compared to in America, I think. Talk about Travis Scott there. Right, so just before we do, apparently there was a rumor out that he was training to be a wrestler. It's like, who would want to see this bony son of a bitch in there? He had to wear giant baggy jeans.
Now, wait a minute. They also said the same thing about Andy Kaufman.
Yeah, but he could work. He was an amazing worker. He was learning to work for decades in comedy clubs before he ever went to wrestling.
Well, he couldn't really work in the ring, but didn't matter.
He was a worker, in a sense, though.
Yeah, but now the killer heel is The Rock, and all The Rock can do is just direct. They're gonna do tremendous business in the next 2 or 3 years.
I think it's crazy that he said, "Oh well, this feud doesn't have to culminate in a match." I was like, I think everyone would rather it did, though.
See, yeah, well, but they love him to come out there and talk about what's going on. He's letting the fans in on what play we're going to run. And they're sitting back saying, I told you, and they're arguing back and forth. Wrestling fans, they talk to each other during the week, make special phone calls. Well, I told you, and if this don't happen, I bet you $10. And that's what they live their life on. So when they do a show, I don't give a crap if it's 1,000 miles away. They'll get in a car. Well, maybe that's say 500 miles away, and they will drive to where the show is, get them a hotel room. Do they still have motels?
I guess.
I don't think they even have motels anymore. They have hotels now. Of course, they're going to get drunk the night before, then go to the show and, get drunk again the next night and then make the drive back. And that's what they want to do. And they have a hell of a time doing that. But now when you got The Rock and Cody and you got Cena and you got Roman Reigns, now they got something to come see. And they never will forget that. This is their life. Living the wrestling life is the best life they can lead right now.
So Travis Scott comes out. The Rock's music plays. Travis Scott comes out. People stop cheering, wondering why he's chugging from a can of something.
It's good, though.
And then The Rock comes out, and then they both walk down the aisle. And then basically Travis Scott is there the entire time, and no one's actually explaining why.
They're introducing him. Because this is what I think. I think they're working on, and I just said this a few minutes ago, the next generation of WWE fans. Because now he's a hot item on the pop market, I guess. See, I'm not a rap fan, but he's out there. They introduced him, and I want to bring this up. I was watching your show with, or it may have been a clip with who's your guy? That's
Stevie.
What's his last name?
Richards.
Oh God, I'm terrible. Been hit in the head too many times. And he was saying that he didn't like how Travis Scott ended up really slapping Cody in almost into next week. And he called him an asshole. And then Bubba came out and said, or he said somewhere, that he better not be alone with Travis Scott in a room or somewhere, just them two. And they were mad at Travis Scott for really hitting Cody like he did. This is what I swear I think what happened. He doesn't know what he's doing, and he knows that. And everybody that's got a little bit of experience, like Cody, Cody himself probably told him, he said, just hit me. I'd rather you hit me hard, really hard. So the people, I don't care, you can take that tape and you can slow it down as slow as it can go. You can see that slap had some force behind it. He would rather that happen than he'd go and, not trying to hurt him, because that would have done more harm than it would have. It wouldn't have helped at all. Now, did he get a what they call
perforated eardrum? So they say. So apparently that one slap managed to blacken his eye and give him a perforated eardrum. So if nothing else, 10 out of 10 for aim. If he was actually trying to hit him, he managed to do the maximum amount of damage with one slap.
And it surprised me that there was some blood in that match.
Now, there's a theory that there was meant to be more blood, but for whatever reason, I mean, I know you were never a big fan of drawing blood yourself, but like, sometimes it just doesn't.
Oh,
come
I was a big fan of blood. I just
on somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else do it. Oh, that's good. I said, oh man, that was great. That was great. And I'm over there. One guy told me one time, he said, I get more blood shaving.
But that's the point, though. I mean, sometimes you do it, and it apparently just doesn't come out. I mean, is that your experience? And then other times it does.
Well, my experience was, this is what I did one time. I wanted to. There you go. The getting blood thing is, certain guys can do it, and certain guys can't. And unless I can foresee like a big payday at the end. Now, if WWE told me, yeah, we need you to do this, I could possibly kind of torture myself and get some. But I learned this from the old. This is a story. It's called Story Time with Dutch, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not me. Okay. You know how they used to do it? Now, fans, listen up, guys. You want some knowledge? Here it is. They would do it. There's two ways to do it: hard way, but you could really take a guy, and if you get him right there, and you could just tap him on that, you do it right, it bleeds like a son of a bitch, big time. Or they could have gone, and I'm letting the people in on a secret now. They do a pre-blade. Pre-cut, and they cut him right there and put new skin on it, or that kind of
like petroleum jelly or something like that. Yeah,
and it seals it up, and you leave it there 2 hours, and then when you get ready for it, you just got to tap it, and the people, they don't see the blade, they just see the tap. So I saw that one time. I said, damn, he knocked. This is when I was still a mark, which is up to last week. But when they see that, they said, damn, he knocked the living crap out of him.
The ultimate point is that if Travis Scott can't throw a shot, then should he just be told not to under any circumstances?
Okay, who told him to do that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you don't know if The Rock told him, Cody told him, they agreed in the back, or maybe none of them agreed and he just got lost in the sperm of the moment, as Kenny Bolton might say.
Everybody moved back for him to do this. Everybody. And the camera was in the ring. So they were expecting something. The Rock told him. So I want to tell people who don't like Travis Scott right now is they need to just back up. And don't say a word to him, because he did it out of respect for Cody. He didn't want to hit him. He didn't want to slap him hard. I mean, Travis didn't want to slap him hard. And I guarantee you, Cody said, hit me. Because Cody knows what he's doing. And so when he did it, and then they got in the back, Cody may have been holding his ear, and yeah, he hit him right on it. But that happens sometimes in just a regular match. I've had, well, it's always the left ear, because most of the guys are right-handed, so when they throw a punch and they get you on that ear, yeah. I've had my hearing go out. I remember one time I was in a match. I was in Puerto Rico. The fans got so loud on the introduction of my opponent that it went, it went so loud, it's like it just cut off. And I've never had that experience since.
Do you have tinnitus, or like that ear ringing?
I do have. I have ringing all the time. It's ringing right now.
Yeah, me too. It's awful, isn't it?
You have tinnitus?
Yeah, since birth. Yeah, I've always had
really?
It. Yeah, I think I'm a bit deaf in one ear, and I've always had it.
but you don't notice it anymore. It just start. Is it all the time ringing?
Yeah, it's constantly. But the thing is, at night, I notice it unless I have like a podcast or something playing in the background. That's why I can't sleep in silence, because it's really loud. But I don't notice it, like, for the most part, yeah. Yeah, it's so.
And I didn't notice it. I didn't notice it for a long time because I just always had it.
Yeah, you assume it's normal, don't you?
Right, I did. I assumed that. Well, it's ringing, and then I can't imagine that. I can't imagine it not ringing. I mean, you can go to the doctor and they can can't they do something about it?
No, it's permanent. It's permanent. They can't really do anything. It's as simple as that. Right. I want to just mention one more thing about The Rock. So afterwards of the elimination post-presser scrum, your favourite word, he is asked to define the final boss character. Is it a heel? Is it a babyface? You watched it, and he sort of gave a bit of a rambling answer where basically he couldn't define what he was. Basically, he's whatever he needs to be at that moment.
Absolutely. He's everything he needs to be when he needs to be the person he wants to be. See, I did an angle like this in Puerto Rico. I put Savio Vega because we had the owner of the company, and Savio had his equal percentage as the other guy had. It was 49%. Then we had 2% of some guy that we painted him off that he was just a tourist who'd come through Puerto Rico and bought into the company, and nobody knows where he is. So they couldn't really outbid each other. But I think Savio finally got the 2%. I forgot now. But Savio would just change rules on the spot. When his champion was about to get beat, he'd just go in there and ring the bell, ding, 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 ding. And because this guy, he'd disqualify the opponent. We did that once, twice, almost had a damn riot. So I said, well, we don't need to do that again. And he would just make up stuff. And he was very, very worried about other people, that these people don't like him and they're trying to do him harm. And he had phobias like that. And he was kind of funny too. And it got over. I mean, we did almost 2 years of sellout business, but I never did anything with him beyond the realm of believability. Imagine that in wrestling, beyond the believability. They thought he would just change stuff, and then finally, when I got somebody to kind of match strength with Savio, great business and really fun to do. I mean, he would just go, and he sometimes a little spot show, he'd go out there and he'd change the rules right in the middle of the match. If his wrestler was getting beat, he'd change the rules, and then of course his wrestler would still get beat, and Savio, he'd pitch a bitch, and it was entertaining as hell. It really was.
So it's basically, this is what The Rock is going to be doing now. So half the time he can do, because when he announced the WrestleMania 42 is going to be in New Orleans, then he's corporate Dwayne Johnson. And then immediately he switches over to, I'll slap the herpes off your face or something like that.
Yeah.
In the crowd.
And he's not locked in to any one character. And he says, I like to go out there and be in charge of the mic and do what I want to do. Well, and we'll get to another lady you're going to bring up here shortly.
Oh yeah.
She said the same thing, but the difference between them is Rock's the boss. He can do what he wants to do, and the reason he can do what he wants to do is because he's the boss. There's nobody going to overrule him. You don't think that the Endeavor company, they're going to overrule Rock? They're going to say, go, do
he
it,
is TKO.
run it.
No, that's the funny thing. He's not a board member of WWE. He's a board member of TKO. So he's a board member of both WWE and UFC. So he's higher up than Triple H.
Okay, so if WWE serves him with something, he can say, this don't mean nothing to me.
Yeah.
Because I don't work for you guys. I work for Endeavor.
Well,
That's the
TKO.
company, our TKO. That's, and I said, I don't see anything from them. So I advise you to get your ass out of here.
Mm-hmm.
See,
And
he
that's
can do
legitimate.
stuff like, yeah, and he can just tell them to screw off.
The funny thing is that I don't know how many people make the connection, although in real life or in storyline, but Ava Rain, she's the GM in NXT, and she has been for ages, which is quite clearly in real life a Dwayne Johnson edict. We've got to use her because she's so bloody awful as a wrestler, but I want to have a job.
Is she? She's not good.
Oh, as a wrestler, she was awful. Absolutely
Really?
horrendous. As a storyline GM, she's the worst GM in history. She makes all these nonsense. That's all the booking stuff. But anyway, Ava's a completely different story for a different day. We're going to be talking about someone who you just referenced a couple of minutes ago now. Carmella. She did an interview where she, not physically, but just basically just moaned and pissed and whinged and cried about WWE not renewing her. So you saw, and I tell you, you don't need to listen to the full interview. I listened to it. I almost went brain dead into a coma of just how just stupid this show was. It was on a podcast.
Listen to any of it?
Hell no. Barely Famous. It's called. I just gave you the Instagram teaser, which has all the information you need. It's like a minute and a half. And you watched that, and what were her complaints? What were her complaints, Carmella's complaints, Dutch?
Well, she was there for 12 years, is what I got out of it. And she had a baby, and they didn't renew her contract. You know something? Listen, all I can say is quit your bitching. Be thankful that you got 12 years out of that company. And if she's as bad as you say she is, she damn sure didn't earn it, not by her wrestling. She was a good-looking girl, but see, they want to blame it on something. Oh, they didn't renew me because first is I'm a female. Well, there's a lot of females that they renewed. Everyone they got there now, they've had to renew them because they have all been there for a while. So that blows her first accusation out of the water. And she had a baby. Well, didn't Becky Lynch have a baby too?
And Alexa Bliss and numerous others. They even had, there was, I can't remember her name. Is it Caitlin or something? She's a backstage interviewer for NXT. She just had a baby and then came back. So having a baby apparently in WWE is not cause for not renewing somebody.
Okay, who did she do this interview with?
Somebody, right, apparently, I had to do research on them. It's some, I can't remember, Kale something or other. Apparently she was in
I wish I'd have done an interview with her.
Oh, God.
And I would just blasted her. And then at the end, I would do something that really, I'd just throw a drink in her face or something. And, say, don't give me that women crap.
I wish you were the one to interview her.
Yeah, and she's a good-looking girl, but she has to blame it.
Do you know what WWE has none of? Good-looking women.
Oh yeah.
And I tell you what, WWE has more than maybe any other company. I mean, you can argue like Stardom or whatever in Japan. They've got the deepest talent roster of women. NXT's half women. Like SmackDown, Raw, I mean, there's like, 30, 40 women on the main roster. But the thing is, for the most part, they're all beautiful, and they're all better wrestlers, or more entertaining, or just more accomplished in one way or another than Carmella, who the last thing that Carmella really did of any real consequence, I guess, was in the 2010s, when she was like with James Ellsworth, and she was with Enzo Amore, and then she was the women's champion. And she was the women's champion because she was basically picked to be the women's champion because, like, I don't know if it was she was a Money in the Bank cash-in. And she was, like, one of the worst wrestlers on the roster. And that was sort of her heat, was that other people were better than her in real life and in storyline. But in the 2020s, and in 2022, she gets drop foot syndrome, and then she comes back for a month and then leaves again.
And Vince liked her.
Yeah, Vince liked her.
So yeah, that's it. That's all it took. And we're not really filled in on her Vince experiment. Probably nothing, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know with Vince. You never know.
I'm not saying anything, but I'm
Dot,
just
dot, dot.
saying.
We're not saying anything.
You ever be talking to somebody and said, I'm not saying anything, but are you saying nope, 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 not saying anything. I didn't say nothing. But and that's what I hate is people that come out there and bitch and moan and blame it on being a woman, blame it on being pregnant. Why don't you blame it on you just the shits at wrestling? And you can't do an interview, and you're just a moaner and a complainer, and you're just bitching around. But
absolving themselves of their own. Basically, Carmella was mid. She was okay.
Carmella was what?
Middle of the pack,
Mid.
And that might be
that might be generous.
That might be generous. It generally might, because, as I say, she didn't really do anything in the 2020s. She was off with drop foot syndrome somewhere in the middle of 2022. She took 6 months off, came back for 1 month, and then she got pregnant. Which, you're more than welcome to get pregnant. But she had nearly 3 years of not contributing to the company whatsoever. And keep in mind, Dutch, she wasn't fired or released or anything. WWE just opted not to sign her again. That's it. I mean, she had one argument that normally contracts are frozen when pregnant, and then after 7 weeks they decide to get the contract rolling again, and without her knowledge, I guess. But also, she also said, well, can't you just bring me in as an interviewer, as a manager or something like that? But the fact is that, one, no one's clamouring for a Carmella return, and two, there are plenty of people out there doing it probably for a lot cheaper than you. So where's the benefit?
Okay, what did she end up making? What was her salary?
Okay, all I can tell you is that main roster performers, their guaranteed minimum is $250. At the time, was $250,000 a year. So minimum. So in 3 years, she did no work and made $750,000 at least.
That's what I'm saying. They're making $250,000. That's $5,000 a week. Now, you know how many people would shoot their neighbor to make $5,000 a week?
Mm-hmm.
I know you got to pay taxes and you got to travel and you got to do this, but that's not a bad job. Plus, you're on TV every week. Everybody knows who you are. I mean, the world is open to you. You can do commercials. You can do this. You can do OnlyFans. You can do a lot of stuff. Some of those OnlyFans, have you read about that? How much money they make?
Oh, yes. So, Carmella, right? So Mandy Rose was apparently making $1 million in her first month.
You believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of these.
$1 million?
It's like porn is ubiquitous. Why would you pay for more? It's free, all of it, pretty much. But
what's free?
Porn. You're tripping over it on the internet.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay anything. But like Carmella would make as much as that.
Yeah, but they have names. And that's what $1 million?
$1 million in a month.
What do you think George the Animal Steel can make?
Oh, $2 million easily. he's a prototypical bear.
Uh-huh.
Oh, they love that hairy son of a gun.
But anyway, are we through talking about Carmella?
No. There's one more thing. In the same interview, she basically came off as resentful that Corey Graves was given, which is a real life husband, was given an opportunity to go into commentary after he had a number of concussions and WWE said he couldn't wrestle anymore. And I was thinking, why would you even bring that up? Because one, it makes you sound bitter that your own husband is still in the company. And two, surely that's just going to get heat on Corey that he can't really afford, because he's already been shunted down from Raw to NXT as the third string announcer.
What is going on with him? If they sent him down to NXT, he's got some heat from somewhere.
Pat McAfee replaced him on Raw because he's the bigger name.
Well, look at the difference in the commentary, because Pat McAfee is interesting. he says bullcrap things, and and he knows how. He just knows how to do commentary. Corey Graves tries to make. I don't know. I've tried to listen to him. He's just a straight guy. It was just straight up commentary. See, commentary teams work when you have that. The color guy was like Lawler and Bobby Heenan and Jesse the Body Ventura. They were color guys because they wouldn't just say what's going on in the ring. They could talk about anything. Then you have the straight announcer. He would call the action, and the color guy would put the color in. But see, Corey doesn't even really put any color in, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he flits between them. He's like sometimes the straight guy, but when he was a colour commentator and he was being the bad guy, it always sounded really forced, I think, for me.
Yeah, I've tried to listen to him, and I like Corey. But to me, I don't know what's kept him up there as long.
Well, commentary's hard. I mean, very few people can be a commentator. I mean, it's very, very hard. I mean, you know it. I mean, but especially in today's WWE, there are all the sponsors and there's all the pre-tapes you got to throw to. It's a very hard job to do. I mean, I fully appreciate that he's talented at what he does. So, but the fact is that Carmella is pissed off that he got an opportunity. It's like, well, yeah, he's useful.
Well, make a prediction right here. How long will Corey Graves and Carmella be together after this?
Oh, no, I'm not going to predict. I'm presuming forever.
Predict.
No, they will not divorce. They will have a happy marriage forever. I'm not going to predict that they're breaking up. That'd be a terrible thing to do.
If she complains that way on air in front of everybody, what do you think Corey's getting at home?
Well,
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But anyway, hey, if she believes that way, so be it. I hope she's happy. But I don't think she's happy being home and not doing anything. And she doesn't want to go out and get a job. I mean, oh my God, that would be beneath her. Hey, but there's other wrestling companies out there.
I don't think she'll do any other wrestling companies. That's my prediction. I think it's WWE or nothing, because no one, who else is going to pay her $250,000, $350,000, $450,000 a year to stay at home?
Hey, Tony Khan might.
Well,
because he has the rep of paying very well.
Yeah. What's Caramel doing in the AEW arena? They'd have to give her a different name, slightly different. Anyway.
Caramel. I cannot believe you said that.
Let's move on. Jeff, right, your old pal Jeff Jarrett, for goodness sake. This came out a couple of days ago. This is just bizarre. Is that he is now on the board, and I believe an investor as well, on the now revived Acclaim computer game publishing company. Now, I know you're not a gamer, Dutch, so just for people who don't know, back in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, they published anything from a number of different WWF games like WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, all the way to Warzone and Attitude. They did a couple of the ECW reskin games, which are terrible. They did Legends of Wrestling, which are terrible. They did Mortal Kombat. They did my favourite, Dave Mirra's BMX. They've done is it Burnout? I'm sorry, Turok. Anyway, loads of different stuff. Why is Jeff Jarrett all of a sudden becoming a games mogul? Do you think? Is he just a savvy investor? Is he? What kind of investor is Jeff?
He's invested in a lot of things, and there is a market for it, a big time market. So I don't know what's going to set his game apart from the rest of them. But what is this, March?
Yeah,
and they're gearing up for Christmas. May have a hell of a run, and so. Is he on the board, or what is he?
Yeah, he's on the board, so I believe he's one of the investors in reviving this game that went this publisher that went bankrupt 20 years ago. So it must be some sort of nostalgia trip, I think.
I need to call him up and check that out.
Hey, maybe you could be in the next game.
They'd have to pay me.
They would.
They'd have to pay me $25 and a 6-pack. Then I'd do the game.
Maybe they do like mobile games. Remember Angry Birds? But they could just put your face on it. Angry Mantells.
Hey, I am not a gamer. You're right. I cannot sit there and just but I have before in simple games. But
Did you ever play the arcade games back in the day in the bars?
I did a little bit, but
Any
mostly
favorites?
I was playing. What's the game called? You shoot the ball and you bounce it around, and
What, Pong?
I forgot what it was.
Yes,
I
Pong,
would play
yeah.
that game. I would play that game. I understood that one kind of.
Right then, we'll move on. AJ Styles resented Hulk Hogan in TNA. So I've got a quote from Chris Van Vliet that AJ Styles did an interview with him recently.
They hired Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and I believe Eric was trying to do the right thing to see where we're at, as far as getting people more eyes on us, that we're growing. And unfortunately, it didn't work out the way it was supposed to. We lost a lot of money. I think I was kind of pissed at Hogan at the time because I was like, why does he talk about TNA? Why does he not helping us? Why he's not advertising at all? His book or whatever it is he was writing at the time in the shows that he never talked about TNA. I was pissed, but I now realize I think he was embarrassed. It was embarrassing to him to talk about that, so he did it. And I think Dixie was trying to do some things, and it was just they keep butting heads. So it just kind of fell apart. And when it fell apart, they lost a lot of money. When they lost a lot of money, they expected me to take a pay cut.
They wanted AJ Styles to take a 60% pay cut, would you believe, as well? But
60%?
Oh, yeah.
I wonder what he was making.
Well, I'm sure six figures, but here's the thing with TNA, and you'll be able to talk about this better than I will, but homegrown TNA stars, for the most part, made nothing. And all the imports from WWE made huge money.
Well, probably James Storm could tell me. I'm going to call James up and ask him.
Chris Harris told me that. James Storm's old partner. Chris Harris said, anyone in TNA who's a homegrown star, they paid like absolute shit. And then Kurt Angle would get over $1 million, and Sting would get $500,000 for part-time, and Booker T and Taz and stuff like that. They'd all, and Mick Foley and Ric Flair, they'd get the big money, and all the homegrown talent would get nothing.
Well, that was pretty much it, really. I remember when Abyss was there, they wanted him to take a cut. And he didn't leave, so I guess he took the cut. I guess it's either take the cut or go home. So I guess he wanted to stay working, but I'm not sure of that. But nothing about that company surprises me.
Did Dixie ever ask you to take a pay cut? So back in 2009, obviously you and Jim Cornette go, and Savio Vega and Road Dogg and other people, basically anyone in creative. Jeff Jarrett, I think, goes. Anyone in creative.
He was gone before I was.
Yeah.
And he was a part owner.
Why did... Because obviously, Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff come in at the beginning of 2010. Were you asked to take a pay cut? Were you ever even given an explanation as to why you were gone?
No. When Hulk and Eric came in, I was already gone. So...
Were they preparing the company for them by getting rid of everyone else? Because everyone else goes like in the autumn of 2009, and then they're in all of a sudden. Vince Russo stays. That's it. Pretty much.
But how long did he stay?
Yeah, right, okay. He stayed for a while, and then he was publicly fired, but secretly still on the payroll giving Dixie ideas. And then one day he accidentally emailed Mike Johnson and outed himself.
Yeah. I think that Hulk and Eric didn't know that. They didn't know that. I think he was talking to Dixie. So it was. Hey, I enjoyed TNA for the first, 15 minutes. No, I enjoyed it because it was a young company, young talent. But Dixie would, all of a sudden, she'd think, and I don't know where she would get these ideas that she was being left out of the decision making. Well, really, it's like, what decision can she make other than like inner office decisions? Because creative, she didn't know what she was doing, but she thought she did. So, and it was really, really hard to work there. And she was always nice and always, kind of, that was in front of you, but who knows what goes on when she goes in the other room and closes the door. You could be the stupidest bastard in the world. But anyway, it was really tough to work there. And sometimes you would say something and people would look at you like, you're the stupidest son of a bitch in the world. I told them one time about how to get this buy rate up. And it was, I think it was Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe. And I say, why don't we just have Joe say that if he doesn't win, say he gave himself 2 years to win a championship or 3 years, how long he'd been there, that if he doesn't win, he'll walk away. He'll just quit on the spot, thank the fans, and walk away. And they thought that was the stupidest idea in the world. I said, no, what he's doing is he's doing a loser leave, but he makes it up. Said, if I don't win, I'm out of here. Did the biggest buy rate they'd ever done. I mean, it was, we were doing like 90 buys. Mm-hmm. We did 105. No, we did like,
I think it was 60,000 or something like that.
Something like that. But she called me in one time and set me in the office and she says, Dutch, oh, I hate that. It's like a teacher sitting you down or your mama saying, Dutch, do you think that's a good idea to make that stipulation between Samoa Joe and Kurt? Do you think that's good? And I told her what an old-time booker told me a long time ago. He says, they will come to see the babyface win. They won't come to see the babyface lose. They won't do that. So if you give them some hope, and here is Joe saying that, hey, if I don't win, I'm walking on my own. So he put the stipulation on himself. Legally, he could have stayed, but he would go back on his word. But since he put it on himself, it wasn't official. And he says, if I win, I'll stay. And if I lose, I'll just walk away. And he said, that's how I motivate myself, which made sense to me. Mm. And he went out and they had a hell of a match.
Scott D'Amore, who I know used to work in creative with part of Team Canada and all that kind of thing, he gave an interview quite recently, I believe. And he was really complimentary about you. Just said, but I consider Dutch like a mentor to me. He was great. But he also said in TNA, the creative meetings were very difficult because there was you and Jeff Jarrett on one side, Vince Russo and Disco Inferno on the other side, and then Scott sort of somewhere caught in the middle. Although Scott basically said, I always very much agreed more with Jeff and Dutch, but I was sort of caught in the middle as sort of like the young boy, I guess, in that sense. But is that kind of the way you remembered?
Yeah, me and Jeff. I mean, if you use common sense, it actually goes a long way. And
are you saying Vince Russo didn't use common sense?
No, Vince had some good ideas. And I will say one thing for Vince. Vince, when he comes to work, he comes to work. I mean, he's got a lot of energy. And he might throw 50 things at you. But I'd rather somebody throw 50 things at me or at the committee than sit there and not throw anything. So, and I told Vince one day, I said, Vince, when you have like a gimmick match, you don't have to keep adding to the gimmick. It's already got a gimmick. Say a match surrounded by barbed wire. Well, then he'd put something else on it, like, a tacks or something, or some baseball bats. And he would have it just covered up like, and Kevin Sullivan told me one time, he said, don't ask, is it too much? always ask, is it enough? Which kind of made sense too, but I think you can overextend yourself with the gimmicks and lose track of the original gimmick to begin with. I don't know. Wrestling, everybody says, they understand it. I don't think anybody really understands it. I think you just got to get a personal issue between two guys, then, or two teams, or opponents, and then slowly work your way through the progression. See, back in the old days when they had territories, they had Mid-Atlantic, and they had a theory. And they used this for 40, 50 years. A major program to them lasted, say, 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. And then it would end with, usually at the 6th week, it'd be a title match, and the baby faces would lose the title, or loser leave town. One of them would leave, but very few programs, very few matchups lasted longer than 6 weeks, because they figured by then the people were just sick of it. You can get sick of seeing something either in 4 weeks, let alone 6. And that's why they would throw the gimmick matches in there. But
it was also, there were no contracts back then, so you couldn't presume someone was going to stay for 6 months or a year.
That's true too. So here's a booker. Imagine, here's a booker, and he said, "Oh God," the guy comes in. "God damn it! Excuse my language. I didn't like my payoff, and by God, if I don't get my money," and he probably may have had actually a pretty strong argument for it. But the booker would say, "Okay, I'll get you more money, but I got to get it to you next week." So what that means is he's going to get more money, but guess what? The promotion is not going to pay any more money. You know where that money's coming from? The rest of the talent. So you just go in there, and they have X number of dollars to pay the main event, and pay the underneath guys, the first, second, third, fourth match. He just take the money from there and give it to the guy. So that's the way it worked. But yet they never really told the talent how they did it. And the only one that ever told anybody how much they were going to make, I mean, percentage-wise, was Jim Barnett. And
I thought you were going to say Paul Bosch.
Well, I met Jim Barnett first. And Jim and Paul Bosch backed it up. It was a 30-30-30-30. The promoter would take 30% of the house. Say the house was $10,000. And the promoter's profit should be $3,300 on that house. And the talent should get $3,300 and to rent the building and do all this other stuff that needs to be done, the advertising and all that. That would be the other $3,300. So, but the thing is, you never knew they never would tell you the exact number of the house. Paul Bosch would. And Paul Bosch, a very interesting man. If you sat down and he would talk to anybody. He made you feel, if you were just the first match, if you wanted to talk to him, he was very nice, very cordial, very respectful. And that's what I liked about him. And he was a good talker, and he never talked down to you. He talked like, he's doing business with you. And I had a lot of respect for him, and all the other guys did too.
Speaking of talking down, what a segue this is going to be. What a segment this week. Speaking of talking down to your audience, or the people who are in the audience when you're being interviewed in AEW Revolution. Should we just watch the clip? Should we just watch the clip and then? Okay, right. Bear with me 1 second, Dutch. I'll sort it out. Okay, then. So, these two ladies I've lost their names. Kelly and I've already forgotten her name. Anyway, it was here. Damaris Lewis. There we go. They were 12th and 13th on the bill for the recent Queen of the Ring biopic, and I was thinking, why couldn't they have got any of the stars?
Yes.
We'll talk about Kamille in a minute, who was 9th on the bill, but actually had a pivotal role. But anyway, these two ladies were on the pre-show talking about Queen of the Ring, publicising it, and then after the Will Ospreay versus Kyle Fletcher bloodbath cage match, Tony Schiavone goes up to these two ladies, also the directors under my face, as you can see on the screen, who says, talk to them. And Tony Schiavone does just that, and here's what she says.
One thing I learned about pro wrestlers, y'all know you're going to win before anybody else does. So thank you for teaching me that.
Okay.
Oh, that is embarrassing. And I'm thinking they didn't go over this or what they were going to say before they interviewed them. You can't do this again. Well, you could, I guess, but I mean, it's so they were in the movie Queen of the Ring. That's about Mildred Burke.
Yeah. But when I say they're in the movie, I mean like a couple of scenes. Like they're really not in the film that much. That's what I was saying. Like no one on top of the bill in the film would go to AEW or were contacted by AEW to actually publicise the damn thing. So they just got like these people who are basically glorified extras with a few lines.
So they played that Wednesday night.
No, that was on the pay-per-view last night. That was AEW Revolution. That was. And Tony Schiavone, I don't know if you saw his face. He's just like,
he said, I stepped into that one. And he stepped in, couldn't step back.
Just the way she was speaking there, right? Is there any possibility that, I keep having to look at her name, Damaris, was actually meaning that, you know who's going to win before you get out in the ring, as in like a motivational thing. It's like, if you believe in yourself, then you will win. I'm really giving her the benefit of the doubt here.
It is what it is.
Is this the most embarrassing 7 seconds in AEW history?
I don't know if it's... Hey, AEW's had some... That should be a show on its own. Hey, you know what I heard about AEW? And I like Tony Khan, I really do. I think he's a guy that means good. They don't do a production meeting. No. And I've never heard that before, and I wonder why he doesn't do one.
Did you, when you do in Puerto Rico, wherever else you booked, did you have a formal production meeting? I know what you used to do in Puerto Rico is you just go and drink some rum on the beach. But at some point you must have sat down with somebody and worked through what you were going to do that night.
No, I sat down during the week with Savio, and Savio, he was the one, he spoke Spanish, and all the guys on the production team, most of them didn't really speak fluent English. I didn't speak Spanish. So I would give it to Savio, and he would relay it to them. Now, if we had a little thing that we were shooting outside the office, Savio would be with me, and I'd give it to Savio, and we'd tell the guys what we wanted them to do, and we get that done. See, I would have about, I don't know, on a 2-hour show, I'd have, say, maybe 4 matches, 5 matches. But the rest of them were like little vignettes. And I would just lead them all the way through the show. And I'd lead them all the way up to that last segment. And then I'd blow it off. I'd reward the people that stayed with me during the whole show. And we would tell this little story. We would tell that story inside. You'd have to see it. But it made sense. So, but Savio was the one who gave him the directions.
Okay, this is a genuine question, right? I don't know if you ever had like local celebrities or DJs, whatever it is that came to the shows, and you like integrate them into the shows. Would you tell them, don't say it's fake on TV because you'll ruin it? you'll ruin the show. Did you even have to tell people, or did you generally have to, like, you know, just say, just keep, you know, it's fun?
Well, that would be that would have been Sabio's job, because he'd have to tell them in Spanish. But no, I don't think you'd. I thought common sense would tell you not to say that. Even though this girl is she's not in the wrestling world. I got that. But I going out there and saying, you know who's going to win before the people know. And the people just sat there like, I don't think they heard her. I don't think it wasn't on the mic, was it?
Oh, yeah, I think it was.
For the arena?
I figure it was. I mean...
Well, I was watching one guy, and he didn't even look over at her. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a throwaway segment, but I mean, if nothing else,
I'm gonna call Tony and said, what the hell happened there?
Ah, dear. Right. So
What do you think, Tony? What do you think Tony Khan said about it?
I'm wondering if, like, genuinely even noticed, because I wonder if even Tony Schiavone noticed, because I do this sometimes when I interview people, is that, you know, I'll ask the question and then I'm thinking about the next question I'm going to ask, or you know, writing notes, something. I don't hear absolutely everything. So there could have been a chance that Tony Schiavone was like, whatever she said, wrestling's, you know who's going to win. And Tony goes, next. And then she's called Kelly, the one next to her, Damaris, and then she actually did a good job of, you know, putting over wrestling, because she was in heels apparently on Stars, if you remember that show as well.
Yeah, they were dressed up, so I'm gonna have to go see that movie.
Yeah, I take it through your travels you never met Mildred Burke or June Byers or Billy Wolf or any of those characters.
I met Billy Wolf.
Did you really?
Met him. He was old when I met him, but he was a pretty big star back in the day. Billy Wolf. He played the Indian character. He was an Indian chief or something, or is that what he was?
Tell me.
I don't know. Billy White Wolf, I think.
No, I think Billy White Wolf is someone else.
You don't know.
You're right. I don't know, but.
You just made it up because his name was White Wolf.
No. Billy White Wolf. Yeah, it's Adnan Al-Casey was Billy White Wolf. I knew it didn't sound right. Yeah, no, Billy Wolf was some other geezer. All right, then, let's get to the other bit of Queen of the Ring.
Hey, what was the name of the lady, Mae Young?
Yeah.
That Bubba give him the deal through the table or whatever it was. That took guts. And that took guts, and that took trust. So, and she was 80 years old.
You know the story. Apparently, so I understand, is that Mae Young actually wanted to. I mean, I'm sure everyone wanted to win the title. I don't think, just looking at the credits, that Mae Young was portrayed. But apparently, she wanted the title, and she was, you know, she thought herself was the toughest of all the girls in the circuit at that time. And apparently Billy Wolf, to sort of put her off trying to win the title, beat the shit out of her. Just took her in a room and just beat the shit out of her until she quit wrestling for ages.
Really?
Yeah. So Billy Wolf was a real nasty piece of work. Like, he used to
abuse he was.
Mildred Burke. He used to beat up women. He used to, of course, sleep with all the women before he'd allow them on the circuit. So he was, you know, yeah, he was a real non-YouTube swear word. So yeah, I want you to watch the film. Watch the film. Is it near you showing?
Well, I will watch the film now that you've given me that little inside look at it.
I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Francesca Eastwood played Mae Young, but yeah, apparently she is portrayed in it, and yeah, Billy Wolf absolutely kicked her ass for daring to want to be the new champion.
She wanted to be the champion. When did Mae Young start wrestling?
When did Abe Lincoln start wrestling? It was, I don't know which one came first.
He wrestled a bear. But guess what? Who else wrestled a bear?
You?
I did.
Yeah.
Several times I did. The bear knew I had a lot of hair on my body and kind of liked me.
Like a cub.
Yeah. So, and I would I saw two guys messing with her. It's in my book. I may have told the story before. They're messing with her and sticking her with a stick. And I was going to wrestle her that night. And I went and screamed at them. I said, "What are you bastards doing? Leave her alone." And I ran them off. And she looked at me like, well, she didn't say nothing, but she looked at me like, well, thanks, and they're messing with me. I went and got her. I think I got her 2 candy bars and a big Coke and gave it to her. And she ate the candy bars first, and then she took the Coke, and I took the top off, and she would hold it with both hands, and she would tilt it back. So, and then I stood there for her to get a really good sniff on me. I didn't know if she could see well or not. And when I got in the ring that night, she remembered me, that I had gotten her a Coke and 2 candy bars and was as easy on me as she could be.
So
when I would just, and she would only she would only exert as much pressure on me as I would exert on her. So, but
I'm looking forward to the sequel now.
No.
Bear of the Ring.
Yeah.
starring Dutch Mantell.
She did whisper in my ear. She said, "I'm never going to put you over. You know that, right?"
Watch the
I
clothesline.
said, yeah. What's the drop kick? Oh, here it comes. Oh, arm drag. Oh, God. That is not funny.
You laughed, damn it.
I did.
Right, one more thing about Queen of the Ring, right? So they got the 12th and 13th top of the bill people from the film to publicize it. And here's the thing. Kamille, who I had a real name down. I can't remember her name. Kaylee, I think. She plays June Byers, who is like the main, apart from Billy Wolf, like the main heel in the climactic scenes where they actually have the real fight to sort of determine who would actually basically control women's wrestling. And as best we know, Kamille is still under contract to AEW. Yet there were two things. One, they didn't get Kamille on the pay-per-view to talk about her role in the film, because obviously she would have been far better than two people who, or at least one of them would say, wrestling's fake, live on pay-per-view.
What was the question that Tony asked them?
I don't even think he asked anything. He just shoved the microphone in her face, and that's the first thing she said. It's amazing.
And he didn't talk to them before?
Apparently not. But, so obviously...
See, that's the deal about being in wrestling. You think you're going to interview somebody and they know what to say, but they don't know what to say. I'm not blaming the girl because nobody told her anything.
Oh, and common sense, though, for goodness. I mean, some people aren't born with it, but I know.
Wait a minute. You ever been around some of those girls? They've never been around wrestling before at all. It was like the guy, Travis Scott, Nobody actually, I walked through with him when he slapped Cody, and, I got my own theory about that. And with this girl, she didn't know what to say. She just wanted to, she thought she made a lot of sense in it, I guess. I don't know.
Anyway, Kamille is in the film, as I say.
Did she say anything? She didn't say nothing, did she?
No, that's the thing. AEW not only did not invite her to the pay-per-view to talk about the film, they invited these other people who basically said the worst thing you can say in a wrestling show. AEW had a red carpet video footage from the premiere of Queen of the Ring, and Kamille, who was there, is not in the footage whatsoever. They had everybody else from AEW, regardless of whether they were in the film or not, highlighted, but they intentionally left Kamille out.
Okay, that's my request, right? You think?
I'm thinking Tony Khan has requested that Kamille be persona non grata. Why?
But you don't know that for a fact, right?
Yeah, but I've got eyes. I mean, you see the video and you think, well, why is Kamille not in this when she's a big star in the film?
Common sense. See?
Deduction.
Was Mercedes Moné on the pay-per-view, or?
Yes, she was.
On the show?
Yes, she was.
Who'd she wrestle? Who'd she work with?
I think it was Queen Amanata. I think it was that. I'd have to look.
Who?
Someone that nobody really knows in this country, I don't think.
Well, okay. If you say so. Who won that one?
Mercedes.
Like I needed to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Someone you also haven't heard of, Momo Watanabe.
Oh, she's a big star.
Yeah.
Big star in Guam.
Okay, so next on the agenda, final angle of AEW Revolution. So you watched the final match. You were watching the last minutes of it. What did you think of... In fact, just set the scene, what happened. It was Jon Moxley and Adam Copeland, formerly Edge, fighting for the AEW World title, and then what happened?
I will say, I don't know where they were. You said they was in California?
LA, yeah.
LA. They had a good house. They had a good crowd. So we start... And with this match, it was Cope versus what's his name?
Moxley.
John Moxley. And they were doing just the regular stuff. And all of a sudden, you see Edge come up, and he was signing a piece of paper.
Christian
signing a piece of paper. Now it goes to a triple threat match, and Moxley ends up beating basically both of them. And then he leaves the ring and he's going through the crowd, and he's supposed to be the heel, I guess, but he's really the baby face. People were liking him, patting him on the back, cheering him. And he didn't cheat to win. He didn't do nothing.
He overcame incredible odds, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was actually, I don't know, any way you wanted to put it, but let me say the finish was flat. You know, you didn't feel happy. And then he went back, and all of a sudden, he's going through, the big, like from the stands, you see the big, you could drive a truck through there, and Prince Nana comes out. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking and talking and talking, and then some security guards run around. No. And they were doing basically nothing. And all of a sudden, was it Swerve Strickland?
Mm-hmm.
He stood on top on one of those, side walls, and he dived off onto him and took him down. And then what happened from there?
It's pretty much that Swerve Strickland is now the number one contender. He won a match earlier in the day. And basically, there's two things to sort of pick up on that I wanted to ask you about. We'll go on the positive first. I don't know how much... I suspect you did a lot of it, because you always used to say, we book for cliffhanger and suspense. And the fact is that they actually set up a new contender at the pay-per-view for the next pay-per-view. And that's something that AEW never used to do, which at least I thought was laudable. That at least the next match a month in advance, which is something that AEW doesn't do all the time.
Well, they did. You do have a new challenger. That's apparent. Swerve Strickland. And it might be a good match. They still got some work to do. But if they can make that, sellable, I think you may have something with that match. But I don't think it did Edge and Christian any favors at all. And I guess have they had any matches yet or no?
Between them, I think they feuded briefly, and then they just drifted apart again. They've not had anything too prolonged, I don't think. But
well, by this they should be back together. So at least we came out instead of one match, you came out with two. So, but I heard that Moxley, he didn't really get heat. The people are liking him, and they were cheering him.
It's a very weird dynamic. The Death Riders have been doing the same thing for about 7 months. And
what do they do? Just go in there and beat people up?
Right. They're sort of like a really weird version of the NWO where, the NWO had a purpose. No one quite knows what the Death Riders' purpose is. And the other thing is that they never lose. And the third thing is that Jon Moxley always keeps the title in a briefcase. So we haven't seen the belt in 7 months or whatever it is. And just no one quite seems to know any of the reasons for any of these things.
Yeah, nobody knows why he keeps the belt in a briefcase. Does people see it?
Well, they see the briefcase, yeah, but they don't see the belt. So basically, he just carries around with,
It
like
could be,
accountant.
okay, just thinking ahead, it's the Fort Knox of wrestling belts.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if the gold is there or not.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty soon, listen, now I'm saying this for a reason. Elon Musk is going to tour Fort Knox, and we're going to find out if there's gold in there or not. Now, can you imagine if there's no gold in there?
Do you think Tony Khan could book Elon Musk to tour the suitcase?
Well, he maybe. I don't know. He's got a lot of money. He doesn't have as much money as Musk has, though.
No.
You know what Musk, they say how much he's worth? It's like 400 billion something. He's the richest man in the world.
Yeah, it's an exhausting amount.
How can you be worth $400 billion?
That's capitalism, baby. Capitalism and an unimaginable head start in life.
Unimaginable head start.
Yes.
Why is it unimaginable?
Oh, because
it happened. If it happened.
Well, one, it happened, but two, he was born into wealth anyway. There's not that many billionaires that are born into poverty and then make it. I mean, what can I tell you? Right. WWE employees' morale is down. This is something that you wanted to talk about. This was something that came out, I think, last week, and it was released, a report by, I think, WrestleNomics, that WWE employees speaking under the condition of anonymity said that they claimed that there was a decline in morale, and it was tied to various factors, much of which was related to the company's merger with the UFC underneath the TKO banner. So there's a few different things. Quite a few people from the WWE end were fired because when UFC and WWE merged, there was a lot of crossover in people doing the exact same job, so some people had to leave. And then apparently there's a few benefits that WWE and TKO staff now don't have, is that they can't buy WWE or TKO shares at a 15% discount. The stock has climbed 50% in 18 months, which has upset people. And also they can no longer get tickets for free in their hometown because they sell out so much. They want to make money from them. And I think your answer was, who cares?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Wrestlers never fail to amaze me.
No. This is the back office staff. These aren't wrestlers.
Yeah, no. They said the wrestlers are not upset, right?
But they probably are. They probably aren't upset.
Wow. Okay, this is what I read. I read that the talent was upset.
No. This is the back office staff that were upset.
Who cares? But they're going to be upset anyway. I mean, but let them just keep it. That's a good way to get fired. They're not going to put up with it, because if it's not the wrestlers bitching and now the back staff is bitching, nobody wants to hear it. And that is true. So
do you think
if they don't like working there, what would you suggest? Go get another job.
The Elon Musk thing. The Rock should send an email and say, you have to reply to this email justifying your existence.
Yeah, and tell me 5 things you've done this week. I would put down Monday, drank coffee. Tuesday, talk to the mailman.
Wednesday, kick the dogs who wouldn't stop barking at the mailman.
Yeah. Thursday, I picked up trash that the damn custodian didn't get. And Friday, I just sat and daydreamed about leaving here. That's what I would put down and say, love working here, Bill, and just be done with it.
Just Paul Levesque. Sign Triple H's name on it.
Yeah. So, but hey, they got a job and they just don't like the way it's run. I don't know.
Apparently,
but how many? What makes them any different than any other Americans? They bitch and about their job too. So it's no different anywhere else.
I think
I don't know why that made wrestling news.
I think the wrestlers also can't get tickets for their loved ones anywhere near as easy as they once could as well. It's just because they're selling out.
They're selling out. It's what it is.
I know, but at some point, WWE can't stop making money. They're making hundreds of millions every single year. Surely you can have a few concessions for the employees.
They're printing money.
Yeah. Well, they can let go of 50
What
tickets.
if they come out with a $2 bill and my picture's on it? Like this. See? We the people. That'd make a pretty good looking bill.
Are you just talking the US Mint or are you talking TKO?
US Mint. That's what I'm talking to.
It'd be all right.
So.
I mean, you have a mustache of one of the presidents.
Which one?
Don't Taft.
Grover Cleveland.
Yeah, that's good enough. One of the Roosevelts.
Hey, Roosevelt had one. Teddy Roosevelt had a mustache. So
yeah,
I never met. I would have liked to have met him.
Would you like to work with him?
In a wrestling ring or just in office?
Oh no, just in the wrestling ring to see how.
Well, politicians back in those days, they actually made some sense. Politicians today don't make any sense at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know what they got? They got social media. And they're so busy trying to be a big star on social media and they turn into clowns.
Did you ever hear that? Right. So before he was Prime Minister here, David Cameron, and this is when Twitter was really new, and he said,
I saw him today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he lives down the road. And he said, too many tweets might make a twat. What a great line.
Too many tweets might make a what?
Twat. As in you may make a twat of yourself if you tweet too many times.
Oh.
An idiot of yourself.
I see.
I think it's a very salient piece of advice.
So you like that tweet?
No, he said it out loud. It was,
okay.
It was an
so he didn't tweet that, he said that.
Yeah, he actually said it. He didn't bother tweeting it.
All right.
That's when politicians still kept off Twitter for the most part.
Hey, who is the new Prime Minister of Canada?
It was Justin Trudeau. I don't know.
I think they had a new one today. So
invite him on the show.
I would like to have Trudeau on the show.
Well, he's not doing anything now. Might as well.
I would like to talk to him.
Let's do two more bits of news and we're going to shut down the show. Jade Cargill almost fights Shayna Baszler in real life. So on screen, Naomi confessed to attacking Jade Cargill way into last year. And this is the cause of her being off television for quite a few months. But in real life, Jade is apparently one of the least popular members of the WWE women's locker room. Here's a quote. There was a confrontation that took place a few months ago before the Cargill injury involving Jade Cargill and Shayna Baszler. It's been confirmed by a half dozen people that it happened, but nobody went into details past Cargill had rubbed enough people in the Raw Women's division the wrong way, and Baszler was wanting to fight her until management found out and calmed the situation down. Does Jade Cargill strike you as the kind of person who would wind people up?
She does strike me as somebody who has a high regard for themselves. That's what I think. To be in this business, you gotta help your opponent. I mean, there's going to come a time when you're gonna get your butt whipped, and some people don't want that, even though it advances your position in the company. They just don't want to do it. I've seen it back in when I would work. They just they do it, but like their heart wasn't in it. So, and I think Jade, she would be better as a heel. That's what I thought she would be. But actually, if she has that attitude, she'd kill baby faces. Literally kill them. You know, the heel is what makes it work. Totally.
Why
if
would she kill the baby faces then?
No, she would kill them, making her not selling for the baby faces. It's what I'm saying. Not kill them, but she just wouldn't. I don't think she would be a good heel at all. A heel has to go out there and sell and, go down and beg off and do all kind of stuff. And she wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. So in the process, she would actually kill her opponent off before her opponent had time to get over. And I think she is she's a pretty big girl too. She's about 6 foot, maybe 6'1".
Mm.
And I don't think she doesn't really know what to do in that ring. And she's a pretty good athlete too. But it's her attitude, I think.
Is it a problem that someone's marketable?
Pissed,
I'm sorry to interrupt. Is it something, because she's very marketable, but she's also very limited?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think she's marketable in this condition. She's not.
Condition.
Well, in her present state, mental state, I think. Now,
do you
if she wants to be a strong baby face, but there come times you can't be that.
Do you think she believes her own press? Because she's
yes, she does.
Like, we've got the limited thing. She was limited in AEW. She always did very short matches. She does tag matches in WWE.
Who would you like to see her against?
Well, it's going to be Naomi, because she in storyline was the one who attacked Jade.
And who else is the girl up there that you would think would put up, if push came to shove, who do you think would be a strong test for Jade?
Shayna Baszler. Now I know that they nearly had a fight. That'd be good.
Shayna Baszler, and there's one more. What's the girl's name?
Bianca Belair.
No, there's another girl, the Australian girl.
Oh, Rhea.
That might be one hell of a fight. But, it's in wrestling. They know who's going to win anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you can have a few people in the audience to interview and say that during the show, that'd be great. I find that really interesting, though, because the Jade Cargill thing almost reminds me of, and we're going to be talking about it in a second, the Lex Luger attitude. That, walking through, has the great body, limited in the ring, but thinks that his stuff doesn't stink and basically hasn't got time for you. And now we're getting reports that, with Jade Cargill, a lot of the women don't like her. And there was something she posted on Twitter last week, something about, like, she's in a den of women that resemble wolves. And Chelsea Green tweeted immediately back on it, just making fun of her. And then other women in the WWE roster have basically publicly made fun of her as well. And it's like, I'm sort of thinking, imagine having so little respect in the locker room that just all the other women are just like, oh, we hate her. She's, I don't get it.
So Chelsea Green was right back at her with a tweet.
Yeah.
There's your money girl right there.
Yeah.
Chelsea Green.
Yeah. You've been watching Chelsea and Piper Niven.
No, I had Chelsea in TNA.
Yeah.
And just talking to her, we left her standing at the altar. She was going to get married. And it took her like forever. It just drove her crazy. And I didn't even have the idea till I saw her. She was crying. And after the show, I did an interview with her. She's still crying. The next week, the girl went in. She's still in the same room, in the same dress. She'd been there a week. She's still crying. I just made it up as I went, but I was having a good time with it. And the girl was getting over.
Mm.
And then she went out there, and now she was over a little bit. See, a lot of times I think they do something with somebody and rush it. Take your time with it. You got all the time in the world anyway. You don't have to put them in a match. Putting her in a match at that time would I think would have killed her. So just let her cry. She's heartbroken. Her beau left her standing at the altar and went with another girl. And she didn't ever get around to the other girl about 3 weeks later that she wanted to kill her. She said, I should have known what was going
Uh,
but that's happened to a lot of women, happened to a lot of guys. So you want revenge, and so it's just common sense again. It's her, and she did her wrong, and we're gonna put her right to this. We're gonna right this wrong.
one more thing with Jade Garga. So she can't be a heel because she's too limited. So, but as a babyface, no one apparently wants to put her over anymore, or maybe she's going to struggle to find people who want to have her presented the way she wants to be presented.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to take WWE. I think they already got an idea of how much trouble she could be, and that will work against her. Because if I was working with the girls, and I would know what the other girls are saying about her, I would know if there's some heat there. And, you gotta consider her lack of experience. Good athlete, but she's not thinking. She's not thinking of her future either. So.
Right, we're going to do one more thing, then we're going to close down this show. Lex Luger is now in the WWE Hall of Fame. He is joining Triple H and Michelle McCool. They're the names so far announced for the 2025 inductees to the WWE Hall of Fame. Lex Luger. Now, I know you're a bit contentious with Lex Luger because every interaction you've ever had with him has been negative, but does he, with his body of work, deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame?
No, but his name, he was used in such a way on top, main event. And he was the first one who went to, he left Florida. I remember he was there, and he went to Mid-Atlantic, which was the Charlotte territory. And they gave him a pretty good guarantee, and none of the other guys had the guarantees. And that started him off on the wrong foot. And he was kind of in the same boat that Jade Cargill is in. Looked great and big, but not a clue what to do. Not a clue. Because he was a babyface, and they would take him in the ring, and the heel would go out of his way. I mean, that was his job. He would go out of his way to make him look good, plus get pinned, so Lex could look good. And sometimes I heard he came back and didn't even thank his guy he was in the ring with. And that's really a no-no. You always do that, even if it's a bad match. You go in there and you just say, hey, thanks. But he was very hard to work with. I remember I had a partner back in those days, Bobby Jaggers. He's passed away now. We were the Kansas Jayhawks, which I changed my name later to the Kansas Jackoffs. That's what I called ourselves. But he didn't even want to work with us. It was him and Tully Blanchard, and Tully's great. But he didn't want to work with us. And Tully said, you got to be shitting me. Said, you don't want to work with Dutch and Bobby? He said, okay, I'll do it. We went in there. He had us throwing him all around the ring, and he'd take over, and we'd take it back and forth. And finally, after about 5 minutes, we got the people up, and we'd set them down. We'd get them up, and we'd set them down. And finally, he put his hand out to Luger and says, all right, see if you can do that. Oh, he come in there. He was embarrassed as hell. Of course, he couldn't do it. So, I mean, they were heels then. So, and Tully knew what to do. But Luger, he was stiff to work with. He would lock up hard. See, when a guy locks up hard and he hits you in the back of the neck here, that hurts like hell. When he brings it in and he slaps it in there, you got hit harder. You'd go out for a second, right on the back of that neck, right there on the spine. So and he didn't have a clue of what to do. You could call a spot, and he wouldn't even know how to do it. So then we had to get Tully back in there, and Tully saw what was going on. He came in. He got all the heat on us. Then he tagged Luger back in, and Luger's in there about a minute, and he said, all right, and he got close, and Tully tagged him. He said, hell, I got the match going. You're not going to take my work and run with it. So, and they got back to the dressing room, and Tully told me later, I said, you see, it's not easy. Just because those guys don't have the body that you have, you think that means anything to these fans? Yeah, you look great. But you said, did you listen to the people when you were in the ring? And Tully, he told me later, and he said he sat there and took it. Did he get any better? No. And I don't even know who trained Lex. Possibly nobody. Have you seen Diamond Dallas Page?
I have, yeah.
And Luger together?
Yep, he's trying to train him to stand again. He had like some terrible infection or something like that, and then he just his body just atrophied, and he was in a wheelchair pretty much ever since. So I mean, it's good that he's finally putting some effort into.
Now, what happened to Lex?
As I say, I'll find out in a second. Let me ask you this. So I know you wrestled here at Lex in '86. I think you probably wrestled Luger in early WCW years, so 90 or maybe around that, I don't know when exactly, but then you wrestled him or the Blue Brothers, Jacob and Eli, the Harris boys, wrestled Luger and Bulldog at WrestleMania 11.
Yep.
He's always had, when he was active, such a horrible reputation in the business. But ever since, he had this terrible illness, he's done such a good job of like rehabbing his image and being like so much more humble and stuff like that I figured that's actually why he's in the WWE Hall of Fame now. I mean, that being, you've got Coco Beware and Hillbilly Jim and stuff like that, who are also in the Hall of Fame. And, Tori Wilson and everything. Then why not Luger at this point?
No, it's fine. But we know that with Vince Sr., it was who Vince wanted in there, to tell you the truth. And I'm glad they have other people making the decisions. But I heard today, what is his name? The black guy that helped Drazov or
helped him. You mean D'Lo?
D'Lo. And he said he wouldn't go in unless Darren, what's his name, Drozdov?
Yep.
Unless he goes in there with him, because they were big friends, which was good. So that's probably what we're gonna end up with next year, maybe.
Yeah, let me tell you this. Nearly a month after a spinal stroke, Luger was left in a quadriplegic state. But yeah, he's been reliant on a wheelchair ever since 2007. One more thing is, do you get bent out of shape over Hall of Fame inductees these days? Did you ever with WWE?
No, ever. I'm glad they're there. I mean, that's fine. It doesn't bother me. But I think how many do they induct a year?
It's less the last few years. It can be 4, 5, 6, something like that. They'll have one faction or tag team, one woman, that kind of thing. They'll cover some bases. But yeah, it's less than they used to be. It's only a few.
Well, no, it doesn't bother me. People ask me this, why aren't you in the WWE Hall of Fame? I said, I don't know. I didn't do anything up there, to tell you the truth. But I thought it was supposed to be a wrestling Hall of Fame anyway.
No, it's a Sports Entertainment Hall of Fame, WWE.
Yeah, well.
There is no WWE isn't wrestling, according to Michael Cole. WWE is entertainment first, and something else and something else and something else. It's not wrestling, so why is the Hall of Fame any different?
That is true. So, you think I'll ever make it?
You could do. Why not?
Maybe. Yeah, why not? I could go out there and say, I'd give a huge speech, lasts about 2 hours. and they start playing music. And I said, turn that damn music off. I'm not ready.
I've got to shut down the show because someone's knocking at the door. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you again on Saturday for Ask Dutch Anything, episode 66. If you want your question asked on that show, you need to email questionsfordutch@gmail.com. But until then, we'll see you on Saturday. Dutch, we the people.
We the people. See you then.